I think there is a little gap in knowledge on how people like to be coached. And maybe you can assign your own discomforts. Hey, I don't like to be told what to do, so I don't want to tell someone what to do or how to do it. And I think it's important to take yourself out of the equation and make it all about the other person.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Builder365 podcast, the podcast where we celebrate all things home building. If you're enjoying our podcast, we just have one request. Please share. Let other people know. Put it up on your social. The word of mouth is the way that we get this podcast out there for sure. Joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Amy O'Connor. Amy, how are things in Virginia?
Hi. It's hot and sticky, probably like most of the country, but yep, that's how things are here. So dry that my grass is brown. It's awful.
Yeah. Well, so you're not getting any of the summer rain out your way then?
No, we're really not. The drought's bad. Good thing we have a good well, but yeah, the drought's terrible here.
Yeah. I'm looking at my weather. We've had just a long string of 100-degree days, and we got a bunch more coming up here. But it's a dry heat, as they say. I don't care. You step outside, and you're miserable. Dry heat, forget it's miserable.
You're not
really,
dry
really
anymore, right? Like I don't know where the dry is coming from because I am not dry in that heat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, well, there it is. The summer is definitely upon us, and along with that, then there's the question of what happens to sales. And we're on all things home building podcast, but we know that nothing happens till a sale gets made. And interesting times out there, Amy. Right now, there's seems to be a little bit of a shift in the wind.
And I'm wondering if it's just normal seasonality. I mean, I think the last 4 years, we haven't seen those seasonality patterns and everybody's, panicking. And I step back and I go, I don't know. This feels like 5 years ago to me. Yeah, this feels like normal slowdown that we see in the summer months. I'm not panicking.
Nor I. It is always interesting to watch. We don't want to make too much of something that isn't there. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll let you know here on the Builder365 podcast. Amy, a great opportunity here to. We're going to talk today about coaching, and for those of you who are employees, say, "Well, I don't have to coach anybody." Well, hold on a second. We're not just going to about coaching. We're going to talk about how to be coached. We'll talk about that as well. And to do that, we're going to welcome in one of our very, very special friends, a certified shore consulting trainer, Beth Berry. Beth, how are you?
I am good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So listen, you are the unofficial mayor of Greenville, South Carolina. Go ahead. Let's get it out of the way. Give us your little Chamber of Commerce speech there.
I don't have a speech prepared. Okay, but if I did, it would start this way. It is definitely the best city
cards, right? Yeah,
right. It's fine. It's totally normal. No, I'm from Greenville, South Carolina, and I absolutely love living here. It's the perfect mid-sized city, in my opinion. It's close to the mountains, it's close to the beach, and on top of that, if you do come visit Greenville, South Carolina, wear your fat pants. There are over 200 independently owned restaurants here, so just tons of great things to eat. And also, the weather is great. There's no drought here. We got rain yesterday. Everything is green in Greenville.
Love it.
So is that in the brochure, wear your fat pants? Like you open up the Greenville brochure and then it gives you an example of fat pants? I'm just curious.
It's just mostly talking from personal experience, really.
Okay, right.
But sure, if there is a brochure, then we should put it in there.
Yeah.
One little side note, 200 restaurants, 174 of those are Waffle Houses. So there you go. And by the way, that's not a slam. That's a praise for Greenville right there.
Love Waffle House.
Absolutely. Beth, do you remember the phone call where I offered you the job? I remember I was in Charleston. I was standing outside of Hank's Seafood Restaurant on the phone. Do you remember that phone call?
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun.
Are we talking about it? It was nighttime, and I don't know I didn't know you were in South Carolina or at Hanks. I just figured it was California time and it wasn't as late for you, but it was dark. I was shushing my kids and my dogs and running out to my back porch, and you called and said, hey, it's, we're going to bring you on the team. And it felt like a dream come true. It's really awesome.
It all worked, didn't it? Hey, a special thanks to our partner for the podcast. Builder365 is powered by Open Door for Builders. Easy sales, smooth moves. You can learn more about the work that they do to support home builders at opendoor.com/builder365. Before we talk a little bit about coaching, or our subject of the day, I'll put something on. Nolan, let's put this up on the screen. Nolan is working all the magic behind the scenes, everybody, pushing buttons and pulling levers. But put that Builder online story about Project Playhouse up there on the screen. This is something that's been going on in Orange County for a long time. It's a fundraiser for Home Aid, for the wonderful, wonderful organization Home Aid, and every year builders get together and they build these just amazing playhouses, and then they raffle them off. Amy, Mary Beth, have you ever seen anything like it? It's pretty darn cool.
I mean, can they make one just a touch bigger? I'm rather on the small side, so it doesn't need to be that much bigger. But these are like the playhouses that I had as a kid.
No.
Okay,
No.
These are like little mini troll mansions, and they're whimsical.
Troll mansions? That's cute.
Well, they were whimsical. Some of the ones I saw, I really loved it. It did. It looked like Lord of the Rings.
They could be in the Shire. That's exactly right. Yeah. But very cool. What a great way to be able to have some fun, to support a great cause, and raise some money. I mean, it's you have to know that the architects and the builders and the designers just had the time of their life putting these things together. So, yes,
yeah.
Listen.
And at the end of it, these things are worth $100,000 plus. I mean, these are really nice playhouses, and they end up raising usually around $500,000 or maybe a little bit more. So definitely worth, obviously, the time and the effort. And whoever wins that playhouse, I mean, they've won big.
Yep. Absolutely. Love it. One other thing here that I came across that I thought was interesting. Let's talk about flipping. And when we think about flipping homes, came across a really interesting article that showed us the top 10 counties with the highest flipping rate in the country. And Amy, I know you're going to love this. 5 of the top 10 were in the same state. And that state was, Amy O'Connor?
Georgia!
Georgia.
I didn't see Greenville on there anywhere, by the way.
But we're just building the new houses. Yeah, no, I'm just
But
kidding.
there's lots happening in Georgia.
Lots happening in Georgia. 5 of the top 10 counties were in the state of Georgia. I honestly believe that part of this is just due to the number of flip shows on HGTV that originate in the South. And everybody thinks then, well, I can flip. I own a hammer. I can flip. Right. And it's probably not as easy as they make it out to be. So 5 of the top 10 were in the state of Georgia, 2 in Virginia, 2 in Tennessee, 1 in North Carolina. Really interesting to note. Number 1, Cobb County, Georgia. Do you know where that is, Amy? Cobb County?
I do. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Relative to Atlanta, where is it?
It's just outside the city, on the north side.
Got it. In Cobb County, 23.5% of all sales were flips. That's crazy that a quarter of all sales were flips. So there's
not a lot of land in some of those counties that get closer into the city. Yeah. So unless you're going to rehab something, there's these little pockets of infill stuff that you can do.
Right. Yeah.
That's going to be high volume, like high velocity sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm actually not super surprised that you see people coming in and rehabbing some of the older stuff.
I was going to say, I would presume that a lot of that housing inventory there needs to be rebuilt. Anyway, it needs to be redesigned. It's a prime target for a flip. Yeah. Love it.
All right, and I have a trivia question for both of you.
Okay.
On flips, nationwide, not just Georgia, nationwide, how much does the flipper usually make on one of their homes?
This is for all flippers of all experience
All
levels.
I love flippers, and not dolphin side, but yes. Yeah. House flippers. How much on average do they make on these houses?
The cynical side of me includes all the people who have tried to do it once and weighed down the average, and therefore I say minus $25,000 is how much they made on average for all flips. I'm probably wrong, but I just have to believe that a whole lot of people thought that they were smarter than they were and then lost their shirt on a flip.
Yeah. Okay, Mary Beth, what's your guess?
I'm going to say Price is Right rules, and I'm going to go higher than Jeff, and I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to go with $1. No, but I really do think that they're making a little bit, even if it's not as much. My gut was to say 30,000, but I think I'm being too optimistic.
I think you're being too generous on that. Yeah.
No, you're not. Actually, both of y'all are way off. The number is $72,375 is the nationwide average.
Well, it's been nice
nationwide average per home? Yeah, me too. It's all yours, Amy.
What?
We're going to go start. You want to start a flip business?
I don't know what I'm doing sitting here.
I know.
Wasting
Yeah,
time. I got a husband who's super handy. Are you kidding me? Like, I can just buy the houses and hold it over to him, and fantastic.
Yeah,
Yep.
for me, even if I could figure out how to make 72,000, the problem is it would take me 18 months. And so that's an annualized basis of about 45,000. That's a cut. That's a cut.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hey, let's talk about coaching. And I want to start, Mary Beth, by we got to know each other through your experience at the Sales Leadership Roundtable, which was my opportunity to coach executives. So as someone who was being coached in that environment, because again, I want to make sure we're talking today both about how to coach, but also how to be coached. Tell the people about that roundtable experience from your perspective. What was that like?
So as far as being in the roundtable, that was definitely life-changing. It sounds cliche, but there's no other way to describe it. When you're leading in the capacity that we lead as sales leaders, there's just not that many people who get what you do. And there's few opportunities for mentorship of the caliber that you need outside of your organization. So to get to work with mentors like you, Jeff, of course, and also Amy, Ryan, that was such a big deal. Michelle, and then also the peer mentorship there was second to none. So the people that you get to meet, it's just an incredible experience, for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot of cross-collateral coaching that took place. The coaching didn't always have to be formal from an instructor, moving down to an attendee. There was a lot of this. And frankly, I get coached too by people in the roundtable who are informing me, this is what's going on, this is what you need to know. Mary Beth, tell me where you developed your love for coaching.
I've always been a coach when I was younger. I loved to go to the little kids' soccer teams and teach them. I was the first one to volunteer for that. I was a swim coach when I was older, so I'd spend the summer with no voice yelling at all the kids in the pool. So much fun. I just love to see people excel and make little changes that make a big result. And when they're very proud of themselves afterwards or they're seeing those results, it's probably one of the most gratifying feelings in the entire world. So I've loved it for as long as I can remember. And it's definitely my favorite part of the job right now.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Amy, what are some of the misconceptions that you've seen? Some of the things that managers get wrong when it comes to coaching or the idea of coaching?
Time. How much time good coaching takes. And I also mean not only length of the coaching session, but the frequency of the coaching session. You parachuting in once a quarter is not training. Right. So that, how long does it take? I think the sweet spot, Jeff, we've always said it's 1 hour per person per week. Am I getting that right?
That is correct. Yeah, that's. I'm trying to remember who did that. I think it was a Sales Executive Council study that talked about that being the sweet spot. It was 3 to 4 hours direct coaching, one-on-one coaching per month, or 1 hour per week is the ultimate. When you do more than that, you start to get into diminishing returns, but less than that does not give you the full effect, right?
Yeah. So I see the time being an issue, and then just simply the how. I mean, I see some people who truly do want to be coaches and they have the enthusiasm, but the confidence isn't there. And, we talk about confidence being belief and mastery, believing in yourself. Do you think you have something to add? And then do you actually know how to go through the mechanics of coaching? And so, right, I see that either they lack in one or the other, and then that creates a confidence issue. And when we're not confident in something, we'll shy away from it. We'll find other things to do instead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting when you look at the persistence, the continual nature of coaching, and how it's not a one and done thing. I think that is a huge problem. That I coach you once for 15 minutes and I deem you coached, and that's simply not the way that it works. You'd be proud of me too, Amy. Karen and I are going to France in late August and September, and I've been taking French lessons, and just little conversational French. Not that I think I'm going to be fluent in that time, but enough to be able to know what the waiter just said to me and what have you. But you'll be very proud. 1 hour per week. 1 hour per week. So
right.
There you go.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It will definitely enhance your trip. Yeah.
Yeah, and my coach is very encouraging, very very uplifting, but also is like, no, you pronounced that word wrong. Let's get it right, and that's what it's going to be like. But talk a little bit more, Amy, about the value of repetition in coaching, and why that repetition is so difficult for leaders.
We talk about micro coaching. You don't want to tackle something too big. It's just one little thing, one little part of the sales process. Maybe it's just even one saying or one answer. So we look at that. And Jeff, what do we normally say? Like 15 seconds is our sort of micro, if you look at it.
At the outside, right? We're going to work on this skill. It shouldn't take more than 15 seconds. Yeah.
Right. So I think one of them is they're working on something too big. So do it again seems burdensome, right? Well, I just had you practice something for 30 minutes. I don't really want you to do it again. So right, if they're not keeping it small enough, then do it again feels weird. And do it again. It takes some of that confidence where you look back and go, do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. And the salesperson doesn't like it. And so I think that's where the sales leader becomes uncomfortable, is they know the salesperson doesn't like it. They don't really like it either, so they stop.
Yeah. Well, Mary Beth, I know you see this sometimes where we talk about the yielding tendency of employees in a coaching environment where they're uncomfortable and so they're resistant. But sometimes the managers themselves yield to that discomfort, and then it's easy for them just to say, I'm just going to walk away and assume that they've got it right.
Right. I think it comes down to confidence, like Amy said. But then I think there is a gap in knowledge on how people like to be coached. And maybe you can assign your own discomforts. Hey, I don't like to be told what to do, so I don't want to tell someone what to do or how to do it. And I think it's important to take yourself out of the equation and make it all about the other person. One of my very favorite exercises to do when I meet with a new team is to have them envision a coach who really influenced them in the past. Or if they didn't have a coach, then think of their favorite sports movie and the coach in there, and tell me the key attributes of a great coach. And oftentimes that gives me a lot of insight into how that team or that individual wants to be coached, and I can tweak accordingly. So just knowing everybody is a little bit different and not being scared to ask what those preferences are.
Mary Beth, let's talk a little bit about being coached. Why do you think that the idea of being on the receiving end of coaching, why is it so often emotionally draining for some people? Some people just love, coach me, coach me, coach me. Other people are like, they highly resistant. Why is it difficult to be coached?
I have a love-hate relationship myself with being coached. I'm like, tell me, coach me, coach me, coach me. Okay, I'm going to go cry for a little bit and I'm going to come back. Amy's laughing because she's coached me, made me cry, and then I came back. But
you have to tell the whole audience that I made you cry.
You didn't. It was me, because the discomfort oftentimes comes from our desire to want to be as close to perfect as possible. Obviously, we're never going to be perfect. And that's why getting the feedback is important. But for those of us, and mostly in sales, I see this a lot, right? We're in sales and have these sales careers because partially and because we have big egos, and it hurts to get feedback that you aren't perfect. But once you realize how necessary it is, then it becomes addicting to see that progress, for sure.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Expand on that. Talk about having that right attitude. What's the right attitude to adopt before you go into a coaching session where you know you're going to be coached, and part of coaching means that there's going to be correction. This can be better. We're going to work on that over here. What's the right attitude to adopt before you go into a coaching session?
That this is something we do for people, not to people. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not coming in to be mean or make you cry. Right? Like my goal, like that is not my goal. But I think that the coach though has to be really, really clear on their goal. Like, what does success look like when I leave this sales office? What will have been success for me? And success is not that my salesperson can now do what I want them to do perfectly, but that we got where we needed to go. They understand. They can at least now practice and put that, into repetition. So maybe when I come back out, they can do it. So I think part of the preparation is figuring out, what does success look like? But then it's also just, what is this meeting about? I can't just go in and be like, all right, let's do some coaching. And I have no idea what that means. And I don't have a plan for what that means. And I start answering my phone, or they start saying, oh, well, block 26, I need you to do. And then it's not a coaching session anymore. And maybe if you didn't want to coach in the first place, you let all these other things come in. And then you're like, well, our 45 minutes is up. See you next week. And it's just a disaster.
Yeah. There's no question about it. There's got to be something really intentional about it. And I think part of that intentionality is to be able to set the tone for what we're trying to do. So if I'm going to go in, I'm going to coach a building superintendent, having that goal in mind up front to be able to say, we're going to work on how we deal with customers who are going through this. And my job by the time we're done is to raise your confidence so that you can be you. In that moment. And we're going to work through it, and let's get uncomfortable now so that you can be comfortable in those moments with the customer, or whatever the environment is. The more that we set that stage, build that foundation, the better off that we're going to be. Mary Beth, you get the last word. Tell us about some of the harshest feedback that you've ever received in a coaching situation or from a mentor.
Oh,
don't you?
Not you, Amy.
You use a different example.
Yes.
I will. Oh, gosh. Okay. There are several examples that swim to the top of my mind, but one that really sticks out. I was in my early 20s, and I was at a community called Kelsey Glen. My sales manager named Bill, and we were going through some leads, and it was one of those moments where it's the end of the month is coming up, and we need to get sales, or we're trying to convert anybody we can. And as we're going through the session, I see him sit back and look at me, and I wait, and he goes, "You done?" I was like, "Yes, I am done. What's going on?" He goes, "Do you realize that, or may I please finish?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You keep cutting off my sentences, and you keep talking over me." And what was happening is I was getting "No, I know, Bill, I know." But it was a huge turning point for me, because he said, "Do you realize when you do that, you come across as a bad listener?" And that really hurt. I'd always thought of myself as a good listener, but the proof was in the pudding with that immediate feedback right there. It was harsh. I didn't like it, but it's one of those moments where I was coached. And I do believe, hi, Bill, if you're watching, we still keep in touch. But it was from a place of love and caring, and it changed my whole outlook. And to this day, I consider myself a good listener because of the tool that he taught me in that moment. But yeah, good coach.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up, because we can look at it and we can say, as a coach going into an environment, where are you going to get greater results and better improvement? Because you said, "You're doing a great job, just keep doing what you're doing," or because you were bold enough and brave enough to say something that might have been uncomfortable, but had the potential for lasting impact. Where are you going to have the greatest impact? But also, if you're being coached, where are you going to have the greatest improvement in your own performance? Because you walk in saying, "I already know it all," or because you walk in saying, "I'm open to what you have to teach me right now." So whether you're coaching or whether you're being coached, your mindset going into that is critical to everything that's going to happen next. But there's no question about it. We look at every pocket of our lives. When we have been coached well, we have been better off. There's no question. And when we have coached well, we've made other people better off. So there you have it. Great conversation. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by, Mary Beth, Amy. Always a pleasure. Thanks, everybody, for watching another episode of the Builder365 podcast. Take a moment to share about it. We'll see you next time.